It's the clash that's rewriting the story of men's tennis, not just on the scoreboard, but in the soul of the sport itself. On one side, Carlos Alcaraz, the young Spanish prodigy whose raw charisma, fearless shot-making, and electric energy have brought millions back to tennis. On the other, Novak Djokovic, the relentless Serbian machine whose unbreakable mentality, clinical precision, and iron discipline have defined an era. And now, tennis legend John McEnroe has lit the fire under this debate, again boldly claiming that Alcaraz has something Djokovic never will. But Djokovic owns a weapon Alcaraz may never master. This is the untold story of charisma versus mentality, and why it could decide who rules the future of tennis. The ATP Tour hasn't seen a rivalry quite like this in over a decade. For years, Novak Djokovic has stood as the immovable force, conquering 24 Grand Slams, surviving every generation that tried to dethrone him. He outlasted Federer's artistry, Nadal's ferocity, and Murray's tenacity. Yet now, in Carlos Alcaraz, Djokovic faces something entirely different, a player not just younger and faster, but magnetic. Alcaraz doesn't just win points. He makes crowds feel something. He turns baseline exchanges into theater, transforms stadiums into cauldrons of noise, and plays with a joy that reminds fans of why they fell in love with tennis in the first place. The contrast is striking. Djokovic, now 38, has built his empire on an unmatched mental fortress, absorbing pressure, breaking opponents down, thriving when the air gets thin and the stakes explode. Alcaraz, 22, plays as if gravity itself bends for him, improvising mid-rally, smiling at impossible shots, and pulling off winners no one else dares to try. But as McEnroe recently said, tennis isn't just about what's on the stat sheet. It's about presence, it's about aura, and Alcaraz has that in spades. Still, he adds with a smirk, but if you want to be the best ever, you'd better have Novak's brain. And that brings us to the real question. Which matters more, the charisma that captivates the crowd or the mentality that crushes the opponent? When you watch Carlos Alcaraz, you don't just see a tennis player. You see a performer. He sprints, he slides, he celebrates like a football star, and he engages the crowd like a showman born for the spotlight. His 2023 Wimbledon final against Djokovic wasn't just a match, it was a global spectacle. Over 15 million viewers tuned in worldwide, making it the most watched Wimbledon final since Federer-Nadal in 2008. And at the center of it all was Alcaraz's magnetism. Fans call him the highlight factory, and for good reason. His forehand averages over 3,400 revolutions per minute, among the highest ever recorded. He's hit winners from 10 feet behind the baseline and drop shots that die millimeters from the net. But beyond the stats, it's his style that sets him apart. He celebrates with the crowd. He roars after breakpoints. He pumps up fans with gestures that feel spontaneous yet perfectly timed. That charisma isn't just for show, it rattles opponents, it builds momentum, it turns neutral fans into believers. Even Roger Federer, perhaps the most graceful player in history, once said, "Carlos has something you can't teach. He has presence. You watch him and you can't look away." And that presence is more than entertainment. It's intimidation. Opponents often admit that playing Alcaraz feels chaotic because the crowd is always with him, the rhythm is unpredictable, and the emotional waves are relentless. But charisma, as powerful as it is, doesn't always win Grand Slams, and that's where Djokovic's greatest weapon comes into play. But while Alcaraz dances with the crowd, Djokovic plays chess with destiny, and that's why he's still the king. If Alcaraz is the storm, Novak Djokovic is the mountain, and mountains don't move. Djokovic's mental strength is the stuff of legend. He's won more matches from 2 sets down than any other player in Open-era history. He's saved match points against Federer in Wimbledon finals. He's turned jeers into fuel and pressure into power, and he's done it over and over for nearly 2 decades. In the 2021 French Open semifinal, down 2 sets to Stefanos Tsitsipas, Djokovic looked finished. Yet point by point, he clawed his way back and crushed Tsitsipas's spirit. That's the Djokovic effect. His opponents know that beating him isn't just about hitting better shots, it's about breaking a wall that doesn't crack. Andy Roddick famously said, "Most guys have a 10% chance when they're down a break. Novak, He's still 60-40 to win. That's not talent, that's mentality. Even Alcaraz, after losing to Djokovic in the 2023 French Open semifinal, admitted, "I started cramping from nerves. It wasn't physical, it was mental." Novak makes you feel like you need to be perfect every point. That's the power of Djokovic's aura. He suffocates hope. He erases comfort zones. He bends matches to his will, no matter how they start. And while charisma wins hearts, mentality wins wars. Djokovic's empire is proof. 24 majors, 400 plus weeks as world no. 1, and counting. His game isn't always flashy. It's not always beautiful. But it's ruthlessly efficient. And in tennis, ruthlessness is often the difference between greatness and immortality. Yet, as unstoppable as Djokovic's mind seems, the sport itself is shifting, and Alcaraz might represent the next evolution. This isn't just a battle between two players. It's a collision of two philosophies, the emotional artistry of the next generation versus the stoic calculation of the old guard. Alcaraz represents tennis as spectacle, a sport that must compete with TikTok, YouTube, and esports. His charisma isn't just personality, it's strategy. It brings eyes, headlines, and a new generation of fans. Every match he plays trends online. His smile alone has more social media engagement than most tournaments. And sponsors know it. Nike and Rolex signed him to deals worth over $150 million before his 23rd birthday. Djokovic, meanwhile, represents the traditional ideal mastery through discipline, supremacy through mental resilience. He's not there to entertain, he's there to dominate. And that laser focus has made him the most successful player the sport has ever seen. The tension between these two styles is what makes their rivalry so compelling. In the 2023 Wimbledon final, Alcaraz's charisma lit up the center court, but Djokovic's mentality almost silenced it. It was a 5-set epic raw joy versus relentless resolve. And though Alcaraz won that day, the battle felt bigger than the trophy. It felt like the torch wasn't handed over, it was being fought for. McEnroe summed it up perfectly. Novak is the ultimate professional. He's the benchmark. But Carlos is the heartbeat of tennis now. And when the heartbeat meets the benchmark, that's when magic happens. And that magic isn't just thrilling, it's reshaping what greatness in tennis really means. The tennis world is deeply split and deeply fascinated by what this rivalry represents. Federer, Djokovic has set the standard higher than anyone, but Alcaraz reminds me of why I play tennis. He brings joy back into the game. Roddick, Alcaraz will win double-digit slams, no doubt. But the reason Djokovic is still here is because his mind is tougher than anyone else's. McEnroe, Carlos has charisma, Novak can't manufacture. Novak has a mental fortress Carlos hasn't built yet. It's not about who's better, it's about who can learn from the other. Even Nadal weighed in. Charisma makes you loved. Mentality makes you feared. The greatest are both. And that might be the real takeaway. This rivalry isn't about who's lacking what, it's about how both men push each other to evolve. Alcaraz is already learning the art of patience from Djokovic. Djokovic, meanwhile, is adapting his style to deal with Alcaraz's creativity and speed. It's a mutual transformation, and we're watching it unfold in real time. So, who wins, charisma or mentality? The truth is, tennis needs both. Djokovic's iron will built an empire. Alcaraz's electric charm is bringing the world back to the gates. And somewhere between them lies the blueprint for the future of tennis: ruthless, joyful, relentless, unforgettable. As McEnroe said, if Alcaraz builds Djokovic's mind, watch out. If Djokovic captures Alcaraz's joy, no one touches him. This rivalry is far from over, and the next chapter could be written in Melbourne. Because if Alcaraz and Djokovic meet again at the Australian Open, the storm and the mountain will collide once more. And that's when tennis history could change forever.